Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today's upload, I have some information that is very disturbing, possibly some of the most disturbing information that I've ever shared on this channel. Before we get into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things, they really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. And folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into this upload, shall we? All right, guys. So yesterday, or for the last couple of days, I've been talking a lot about Super Soldier Program, creations of these creatures in Dulce, New Mexico, and other DUMBs, deep underground military bases. I did do a couple of different uploads on the actual war in Dulce, per Mark Richards, and a couple of different ones on Tom Castiello. And this actually is a lot more information from Tom Castiello, and it's got a lot of information about Nightmare Hall, which is level 6 of the Dulce, New Mexico deep underground military base, and it is where the majority of the diabolical genetic testing and mutation on humans took place. The information in this is very terrifying to me, and it's a lot. There's a lot of information. This was sent to me probably a year ago, 2 years ago, somewhere around there. Per someone that, after I had interviewed Laura Eisenhower, said, hey, I've got a lot more information and I'd like to share it with you. And so this is exactly this is exactly what this channel is about. Just the unexplained and the truly terrifying. Tom Edwin Castiello he worked as a security officer or security guard at Dulce, New Mexico. His wife and children were kidnapped, possibly murdered by the one government, and he then was found dead years later. So let's get into this. This question and answer with Tom Castiello was done 1 year before his death, or disappearance. I believe they've never found his body. They've never recovered his body, and it is presumed that he is dead. So, question: when exactly was the upper human-occupied level of the Archuleta installation constructed, which would be Dulce? I heard Dulce was started in 1937 to 38 by the Army engineers, enlarged over the years. Most recent work was completed 65 to 66. to connect tunnels to Page, Arizona base site of one of the older underground facilities. The Four Corners base is called Pareka. Most of the Native Americans living in that area are aware of that base and could tell us about the underground life forms that frequently are spotted near those communities. Bigfoot, Dogman, and such. Actually, what the term they use is coyotes, which in Spanish is translated to coyote man. References to Dulce base here deal mainly with the upper levels, not the extreme lower levels, which include vast natural cave caverns and some believe very ancient tunnels as well. This would include the tunnels illuminated by phosphorus, which the alien greys avoid, and the origin of which is unknown. In fact, sources have informed us that some of the underground NORAD facilities of Colorado were constructed within already existing cavern systems, suggesting that Ray Palmer and Richard Shaver were correct when, as early as the 40s, they wrote about the government search for underground cave and tunnel systems to be converted for their own use. Second question, by what means was the upper installations constructed? Are you familiar with the alleged developments made by the RAND Corporation of a highly efficient bore or mole machine capable of melting rock using nuclear-powered wolfram graphite-tipped drill cones? Answer. According to several senior maintenance workers, part of it was blasted by nuclear devices in the 60s. There are sections, like the shuttle tunnels, that were formed by an advanced tunneling machine that leaves the tunnel walls smooth. The finished walls in those tubes resemble polished black glass. Number 2, by whom was Dulce installation originally constructed? Nature started the caverns. The Draco, reptilian humanoids, used the caverns and tunnels for centuries. Later, through Rand Corporation plans, it was enlarged repeatedly. The original caverns included ice caves and sulfur springs that the aliens found perfect for their needs. The Dulce caverns rival Carlsbad caverns in size. Carlsbad caverns, and especially the adjacent caves, are officially among the largest and deepest in the world, with several leads that remain to be unexplored by professional spelunkers. Next question. What exactly are the cattle and human organs, such as blood, anal tissue, eyes, reproductive organs, tongues, etc., used for, i.e. the organs obtained via cattle and human mutilation? Read the so-called Draco papers for more information, which I will share later on eventually. Are the various electromagnetic controlled air or spacecraft that have been seen leaving from and arriving at Mount Archuleta manned by humans, the alien entities, or both? Archuleta Mesa is a minor area. The craft leave and are stored in 5 areas. One is southeast, or Dulce, one near Durango, California, one at Teos, New Mexico, and the main fleet, is stored at Los Alamos. Tom Castiello is referring to a joint operational fleet. From combined sources, however, it appears as Dulce is absolutely surrounded on all sides by alien bases, and that Archuleta Peak, although apparently the central nexus of the entire underground network, is nevertheless just one part of the overall complex that some claim is nearly the size of Manhattan. So Dulce, the entire complex that is underground, is supposedly the size of Manhattan. That is absolutely huge if you think about it. One source has indicated that there are chambers a few hundred feet below the very town of Dulce itself that are part of level 1 of the facility. This close proximity may explain why it has usually been described as the Dulce base. Apparently, even with his high security clearance, Costello was only familiar with one part of the overall mega complex which underlies the area. Whatever amount of activity is taking place there, different sources seem to indicate that the town of Dulce nevertheless lies over a major crossroad, convergence, or intersection area of alien activity, even though the core of alien activity has been extended to Los Alamos. Los Alamos and the mountainous regions east and southeast of it, in and around the Santa Fe National Forest, seem to be a major nest of reptoid gray forces in North America, although there is also a large number of dens scattered throughout these underground networks between Dulce and Area 51. Dulce seems to be a major through point for extern and subtern reptilian activity, a central infiltration zone for surface operatives, as well as an operational base for abduction, implantation, mutilation agendas, and also a major convergence for sub-shuttle terminals, UFO ports, and so on. Next question. Others have suggested that some of these entities below Dulce are not of extraterrestrial origin, and that they are actually described or are actually descended from Saurian or reptoid beings such as Velociraptor or Stenocophosaurus, a serpentine race or race similar to that hinted at in the 3rd chapter of the book of Genesis. Some reptoids are native to this planet. The ruling caste of aliens are reptilian. The beige or white beings are called Draco or Draco. Other reptilian beings are green, and some are brown. They were an ancient race on Earth, living underground. It may have been one of the draconian beings that tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden. Reptoids rightly consider themselves native terrarians. Perhaps they were the ones we call the fallen angels. Maybe not. Either way, we are considered the squatters of the earth. Next question. Some have suggested that the so-called underground ET bases and tunnels may, for a large part, be literally thousands of years old constructions of a antediluvian race which obtained a considerable level of scientific complexity and who were destroyed by a divinely cataclysm which took place after they attempted to merge their science with occult/supernatural forces. For instance, some have suggested that the Bermuda Triangle phenomena may be a result of an out-of-control Atlantean experiment that led to a space-time disaster which produced an electromagnetic fallout in the triangle area and elsewhere after they had accidentally loosened powerful forces and energies into the world that they knew very little about. Do your observations tend to confirm or refute such a possibility? Answer: I'm not sure about the divine part, but these aliens consider themselves native terrarians, which all that means is these reptilians, in aliens is in quotes, consider themselves to be the natural inhabitants of the earth prior to humans. Where do the little gray aliens fit in? They work for and are controlled by the Draco. There are other gray-skinned beings that are not in the league with the Draco. Did you ever talk to any of these aliens at the base? Since I was a senior security tech at the base, I had to communicate with them on a daily basis. If there were any problems that involved security or video cameras, I was the one they called. It was the reptilian working caste that usually did the physical labor in the lower levels of Dulce. Decisions involving that caste were usually made by the white Draco. When human workers caused problems for the working caste, the reptoids went to the white Draco boss, and the Draco called me. At times, it felt like it was a never-ending problem. Several human workers resented the no-nonsense or get-back-to-work attitude the working caste lived by. When needed, intervention became a vital tool. The biggest problem were human workers who foolishly wandered around areas of off-limits or areas of alien section. I guess it's human nature to be curious and wonder what is past the barriers. Too often, someone found a way to bypass the barriers and nosed around. The cameras near the entrance usually stopped them before they got themselves into serious trouble. A few times, I had to formally request the return of a human worker. So, Joe Schmo decided, hey, I'm going to go down this little tube here and see how far I can go. And Draco security guards captured them, and they were held captive until Castiello went and said, hey, give me my guys back. They're working here. You know, they just wandered off. It's human nature. Are there other sites tied in to the shuttle network other than those you had mentioned? And if so, where are the entrances? Where? Everywhere. They crisscross the world as an endless subterranean highway, like a freeway, except this one's underground. The subterranean highway in America is like a freeway, except underground. That highway depends on electric motors for trucks, cars, and buses, for paved roads, and it is for limited travel. These tubes weren't used with trucks, cars, and buses. It was, like he said, vehicles that used electric, or an electric that was far advanced than what we have. There are other style of transit for freight and for passengers, that is for rapid travel. That worldwide network is called the subglobal system. It has checkpoints at each country entry. There are shuttle tubes that shoot the trains at incredible speeds using mag level and vacuum method. They travel at a speed that excels the speed of sound. Part of your question involves the location of entrances to that base. The easiest way to answer is to say every state in the United States has them. Frequently, the entrances are camouflaged as sand quarries or mining operations. Other complex portals are found on military bases. New Mexico and Arizona have the largest amounts of entrances, followed by California, Montana, Idaho, Colorado, Pennsylvania, Kansas, Arkansas, and Missouri. Of all the states, Florida and North Dakota have the least amount of entrances. Wyoming has a road that opens directly into a subterranean freeway. That road is no longer in use, but could be reactivated if they decide to do so with minimal cost. It's located near Brooks Lake. Are there bases in the state of Utah? No. Tom has mentioned several areas surrounding Utah, Colorado, Mexico, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, and Idaho, where there are connections, but little on Utah, which according to some sources lies directly over one of the largest natural cave systems in North America, one that is said to reach deep beneath the Western Rockies as well as Bonneville Basin. Have you heard of any about the alleged underground installations within the Wasatch Mountains? Answer: Salt Lake, Lake Powell area, Dark Canyon, Dugway Grounds, Modena, and Vernal all have exits there, others too. Note: there have been many rumors of ancient tunnel systems being intersected during the excavation of the sub-basement levels below major industrial and mall areas in downtown Salt Lake. Various stories surrounding these tunnels include explorers who have entered into such tunnels and has never returned. So while digging for malls and large buildings, reports of lizard people down in those labyrinths, reports of greys working with humans on electronic equipment and massive building projects going on in huge caverns beneath the mountains to the east, reports of humans who are part of an Asian-based Arjahari kingdom who maintain colonies within the tunnels and caverns, and who are in conflict with the reptoids, greys, and a group collaborating human fascists from a network of massive underground facilities beneath the New Schwabenland region of Antarctica. So that's the supposed German Nazi base that was built in Antarctica. Reports of men in suits having been seen pacing back and forth through large underground chambers carrying submachine guns. Reports of bottomless shafts, large tunnels strung with lights that are big enough to drive a semi-truck through. Sections of tunnel walls that look solid yet which one could put their hand through. Rooms that emanate a strange greenish phosphorus glow. Abductees who are taken below encounter all types of aliens. Discs that have been seen emerging from mountains to the east and attacking incoming UFOs over the valley. Dungeon and Dragon fanatics who have been down in these tunnels and tell wild stories of hundreds of miles of maze-like passages. Reports of connections to the tunnel systems via sewer drainage network, especially underneath the downtown Crossroads area. Reports of alien activity similar to that which has been described in connection to Dulce, New Mexico, and reports of a huge cavern network that reaches beyond the border of the state in all directions, a huge network that connects the underground system of Nevada with all of those in New Mexico. There is a famous story which is not openly talked about. There are two versions, both may be true. In one version, a Mormon temple worker penetrated an underground tunnel below the square in downtown Salt Lake City and traveled for some distance through a series of underground catacombs until running into a lizard-like man. The creature attempted to attack him, but the man escaped and managed to find his way back to the surface. He began telling other people what had happened, and soon after, the government arrived in the area and went in, closed off many of those tunnels leading to the sub-basements of the temple. Presumably, there was some heated debates over how much of the underground system this denomination was allowed to control. A similar dispute apparently occurred to the southwest, where the LDS Church maintained a large storage facility under Granite Mountain in Little Cottonwood Canyon, within the upper levels of a vast network of caverns. Fascist CIA elements and the Greys came in, took control of these larger caverns deeper within the mountain, and ordered the vault workers to stay out of the forbidden areas, and stated that the United States government was now using them for national security purposes, and that it was their patriotic duty to maintain this secret. Now, the other version concerned a custodian who entered the tunnel near the cinema area below the Crossroads Mall, across the street and to the south of the Temple Square. While excavation was being carried out in part of the mall, the worker entered the tunnel and before long encountered a serpent-type man, beat and hastily retreat, and told his fellow workers what he had seen. The FBI and/or local police arrived soon and sealed this tunnel. Another story involved a young man who, along with a friend, had used a chain tied to his pickup truck to rip out a manhole cover in the area near the mall and the square. They navigated through the maze of sewer passages underneath and came to a shaft that descended in a series of 5 rooms, one below the other. And from the bottom room, a tunnel led south into a large chamber wherein they saw a seemingly bottomless shaft, a large southwest tunnel strung with lights and large enough to drive a Mack truck through, and the footprints of some type of three-toed bipedal creature. Other sources imply that early pioneers and settlers of the area who explored these tunnels came in contact with, and in some cases even joined with, some of the Telosian, Agahardi, and Mayan underground colonies below the Salt Lake Flats, the Salt Lake Valley, and the Western Rockies. These subterraneans had formally established territorial agreements with the reptoids and greys before the aliens began invading their subterranean lands below the Intermountain West. En masse in the early 1900s, the treaties were part of an attempt to stave off a possible interspecies conflict, as skirmishes between the humanoids, Teros, and the reptoids, Deros, within the cavern networks of North America had increased since the 20s and 30s, 40s. Because of somewhat non-exclusive collective mind with these humans interacted, it is decided that one possible way to convert the reptilians into becoming beings of emotion and compassion was to allow them access to the group consciousness. The reptoids, however, once given access, immediately began taking advantage of the collective and used it to control the humans on a subliminal basis. The ease in which this occurred may have been enhanced by the little fact that the reptoids and greys were already operating as a part of the collective or group mind, one which was far more complex than the Ashtar or Ashtar collective itself, which many of the Aghardians depended on. This suggested that the reptilian collective or hive itself is absolutely void of any and all care concerning or compassion for humans. Individual reptoids operating distinct from the draconian collective might, however, be tamed by other collective free humanoids in some cases, as some have repeatedly been tamed by the Andropalladian worlds. If the non-humans could be severed from the collective, they may be deprogrammed and reprogrammed, so to speak, and even attain individual awareness and a degree of emotionalism. In such cases, it would not be advisable to give these creatures equal standing among humans, and absolute subserviency and monitoring should be enforced, even if that means we're found to serve them for a collective mind network. When dealing with the reptilian forces, unconditional surrender should be first offered. And if this is not accepted, then direct military action would be justified, especially in light of the many permanent abductees whom the greys and reptoids have taken captive, those who are still alive, to their underground systems. Does Mount Archuleta shuttle system connect with shuttle systems which allegedly radiate from Mount Shasta in Northern California? Yes, Mount Shasta is a major site of alien, elder race, reptilian race, human meetings. Beginning with Grover Cleveland, every president in the United States history has visited Talos City. Truman was supposed to have visited the lower realms as the high archon on Earth. He was supposed to have met the king of the world there and given the keys to the United States. I always knew Truman was just a bad dude. You know, just if you read about Truman, it's pretty crazy. This is interesting right here. Something like this may be inevitable if freedom is to be preserved on this world and beyond. We should never forget how, however, the NWA NWO, corporate elite, and their draconian masters intend to depopulate the surface of the planet and the underground systems as well. According to one Navy intelligence source, the 33 plus Masons, there are allegedly several degrees above 33rd degree, which interact directly with the Draconians and are part of the interplanetary lodges, intend to set the left-wing caverns and right-wing caverns against each other in order to depopulate the underground realms so they can impose absolute Bavarian, draconian, global control of both worlds. So this stuff was written well before right now. And we are seeing this right now. We are seeing left versus right on a daily basis. Is that what's going on? I mean, is this the setup? It makes sense. This Costello was asked this, in, I believe this was took place in like 89 or 90. Did you notice any involvement of high-level Freemasons or Jesuits within the underground installation and or with the aliens? Yes, I did, but that is a loaded question, and I will not comment further. I'm not a Mason or a member of any secret fraternal group. There's one organization I am a member of. In the United States, that group is commonly called the Central Unit. It is a pleasure to tell you that I am a member of the Subgalactic League of Costa Rica. Question: is there any truth to allegations that the CIA/aliens have established bases on the moon and also Mars? I've heard that as well, but I haven't seen proof with my own eyes. The aliens do allegedly have bases on several moons of Jupiter and Saturn. The CIA operates in other countries, but I've never heard them operate on planets. Question: have you heard any hints or rumors suggesting that there may be lower levels beneath Ultra 7 level of the Dulce base, and also where these might lead to and what they may consist of? Yes, and your guess is as good as mine. Sure, there's lots of talk, but that doesn't mean it's there. However, I will tell you, I've seen elevators that were off limits unless you are Umbra or higher security clearance than that. At the base, information is supplied to me on a need-to-know basis only. My clearance was Ultra 7. Now, mind you, Tom Costello was part of the Battle of Dulce in 1978. Some instance that the United States secret government has developed its own disk craft based largely upon top secret anti-gravity experiments carried out by Nazi Germany scientists during World War II. Have you heard anything referring to this? When I was working in photo security, heard a lot of talk, never saw the proof, but once in the Air Force, I developed a roll of film that showed a craft like Adaminsky's with a swastika on the side. Question: Tom, did you have access to the alien craft? Were you ever inside of them? Yes, frequently. I saw them in garages. There are quite a few of them. The main fleet is stored at Los Alamos. Yes, I entered several crafts. There were two things that stuck into my mind: the oddly spongy floors and the unusual pinkish purple color of the lighting. The crew stated the floor becomes rigid in flight and the purple tint of the lighting changes to a bright blue-white. The entire inside of the aircraft are scaled down in size when compared to an average human. The halls were curved and narrow, but somehow When inside, it appears bigger than it looks. Certain areas, the outermost sections, almost felt and looked alive. I was never taken up in one. Now, there's been rumors that these spaceships that people have seen are alive, like have acted like a sentient being. Which, can you give me any information on the reptilian race? What do they do on the 6th level? The area called Nightmare Hall. This is bad. This is bad, my friends. Answer. The worker caste does daily chores, mopping the latex floors, cleaning the cages, bringing food to the hungry humans and other species. It is their job to formulate the proper mixture for the Type 1 and Type 2 beings that the Draco race has created. The working caste work at the labs as well as at computer banks. Basically speaking, the reptilian races are active at all levels of Dulce. There are several different races of aliens that work on the east section of level 6. No doubt some collaborating Nordic factions included. That section is commonly called the alien section. The Draco are the undisputed masters of level 5, 6, and 7. The humans are second in command of those levels. I had to argue with one large draconian boss frequently. His name is difficult to verbalize. I usually called him Karsh, and he hated it because his name is very like a throaty word, and it's like 17 letters. The draconian leaders are very formal when talking to the human race. These ancient beings consider us a lower race. Karsh called me Leader Castiello, but it was used in a sarcastic way. However, the worker caste is friendly enough as long as you allow them to speak first. So even the working class of these reptilians feel like we are lower than them. We are like, the working class is below the Draco, and apparently, according to the working class, we are lower than them. How does that make you feel if it's true? Man, this is deep and agitating stuff, because, you know, this has been going on for hundreds of years. Our government is so deep with these things that they will answer if you address them. They are very cautious creatures and consider most humans to be hostile. They always seem surprised when they find many of the humans were open and trustworthy. There is no fraternizing with the aliens off hours. It is forbidden to speak to any alien race in the halls or elevators without clear business-oriented reasons. Humans can talk to humans. Aliens speak to aliens. But that's as far as it goes. At the work site, however, it's different. There is this free speech in labs. A camaraderie found in the labs also reaches the computer bank section. In those areas, everyone talks to anybody. However, everything changes the minute you cross the threshold of the hall. Instantly, all conversations become strictly formal. Hard as it is, several times I had to arrest someone simply because they spoke to an alien. It was a very strange place. Question: exactly what first made you aware that something was wrong with Dulce? Seems to me that a place as obviously horrible as this one wouldn't need an Einstein to know that this is a crime site. What took you so long? Are you the guy who blew the whistle? There are several things you should know about. I took an oath, under the penalty of death, that no matter what I saw or heard, I would never divulge this information. Also, I signed a waiver that states I would willingly give up my life if I was found guilty of treason. At the Dulce-based treason is anything that mentions the details of daily operations at this facility, when outside the confinement of this base. When I first arrived, a need-to-know policy was in effect. The story the honchos told us was that this is a tri-biotransfer facility with advanced technology doing advanced adventurous methodology for medical and mental gains, which is a fancy way of saying that they do really risky things with human lives just to see what would happen. If a medical cure happens, it will be heralded on the surface of the earth as a marvelous new cure, saying it was found after years of research at some well-known medical facility. The real story is the cure is never explained. After all, the Dulce base is a secret facility. These people are very good at what they do. They do not tell the truth about the unfortunate people who ended up in Nightmare Hall. I worked with these creatures. With that in mind, you should get the idea of the secrecy and security at this place. However, I know this was not the usual hospital-type job, but in the beginning, I bought the whole package. I was reminded daily by intercom in the elevators that this site does high-risk advanced medical and drug testing to cure insanity. Please never speak to the inmates. It can destroy years of work. I am sensible when doctors say don't speak to them. Who was I to destroy this delicate situation? But one man somehow caught my eye. He repeatedly stated that he was George S. and that he had been kidnapped, and he was sure someone was searching for him. I don't know why he sticks in my mind. I found I was remembering his face, thinking he sure didn't look or sound insane, but many inmates say that. The next weekend, I convinced a friend of mine, a police officer, to run a check on the guy, saying I had run in with him and was curious. I did not mention the base at all. It was sickening feeling when a computer confirmed that George S. was missing. What's worse, the police thought he was just another guy who got tired of the daily grind and split. That was the beginning. I am the one who blew the whistle. Or am I the one who blew the whistle? No. The next Monday I searched for George, but he was gone. There are no records that explained what happened to him. It was another security officer that came to me saying he and some lab workers wanted an off-duty meeting in one of the tunnels, off the record. Curiosity took over, and I said, okay. That night, about 9 of us showed up. They said they knew they were risking me turning them in, but they wanted to show me some things they thought I should see. One by one, they showed me records that proved many inmates are missing people. There are new newspaper clippings and even photos that they had somehow smuggled into the base. They hoped to smuggle them back out without me turning them in to the honchos. I could see the fear on their faces. One man stated he would rather lose his life by trying than lose his soul by not doing anything at all. It was that remark that turned the tide. I told them about George and the things I found out about him. After a few hours, we pledged to attempt to expose the base. The name Nightmare Hall is descriptive, but surely it has a regular name. What is it called in the manuals? In the manuals, it's called the vivarium. It describes Dulce as a secured facility for tending bioforms of all types. In their report, it is retold as a private subterranean bio terminal park, which accommodations for animals, fish, fowl, reptilian, and mankind. After seeing this park, the name Nightmare Hall is far more accurate than the manual. The accommodations for the inmates at Nightmare Hall fall short of the pretty picture the manual describes. Next question. You mentioned one reptilian leader. Do you know anything about him? Like where he is from? Is he from Earth or from a different planet? Answer. His name means keeper of laws. They receive their names after they reach the age of awareness. They do not recognize time as an important factor in being aware, the way humans do. Upon their age of awareness, they are cognitive of the station or position they are destined to fulfill. At that time, they choose or allow someone to choose their name. Their name will include the position they hold and several personally chosen letters. Each letter has a personal meaning, known only by the alien and the one who chooses the name. Since Karsh name means keeper of the laws, his name includes Kash, memory or keep, base word. Reptilians choose to not be only private but secretive of the location of their natal place. To them, birth, or the emergence of life, is considered one of the sacred rites of life. Now, this next part I spoke about a little bit about it a couple days ago when I was talking about soft disclosures in Hollywood and such, right? Earth being one of the planets in their trade routes, if any human asked clear questions about the allegiance, the aliens referred the questions to the Draco. The Draco, in turn, referred the questions to the supervisor, me. I did not have any information about the stars because information was supplied on a need-to-know basis. I didn't need to know that information. Did any of the working cast join the revolt? Can you give me any of their names? A few of the reptilian janitorial crew let us know they knew we were attempting to sabotage the work going on the 6th and 7th levels. One of them, with the name of Sachal, secretly formed a small group of reptoids with the same mindset as my group. Please take note. The similarity between the scenario and the NBC miniseries The V, which is now available on video, cassette, or DVD after years of non-being available. I have it on good authority that the original author of V idea was an investigator who knew Tom Castiello on a personal basis. He had connections in Hollywood and had written a motion picture script, which in turn seen to borrow without permission by NBC employee and rewritten as a miniseries. The show is based on a reptilian humanoid from Sirius B who had come to Earth under the guise of a benevolent human-like space brother to bring new order to the universal peace. In reality, they had a secret agenda to scourge our planet for her resources, steal her people for biological substance. This agenda was being contested by a human resistance who refused to fall for the reptilians' facade. And these resistors were in turn working with a secret fifth column of reptilian who did not agree with their leader's agenda for planet Earth. Could this miniseries have actually been a soft disclosure? I said it a couple days ago that I think I said specifically V, the Descent movies. There's a lot of little movies and TV shows that I do believe are soft disclosure. Shall took upon himself the danger of informing me. He was as open as possible in a unique situation. On the day I found out about it, I was inspecting a camera near the exit tunnel. He approached, stooped down. Tall reptoids average about 7 to 8 feet in height, according to most witnesses. A few of us agree that you are singular in your interest in missing human reports. If true, walk away. I'll reach you. If untrue, destroy me now. My heart almost leapt out of my chest, but I silently walked toward one of the wide halls. For the rest of my life, I'll remember those words. It was the first time I knew reptilians could have individual thoughts and opinions. So this reptilian janitor pretty much said, hey, we're with you. Or, I believe that this is what you're trying to do. If I'm right, walk away and we'll talk later. If I'm wrong, destroy me now. So he was willing to give up his life right there to Castiello, the head security of the human that worked at Dulce, to help our race to help stop what was going on. If that war in Dulce never happened in 78, they didn't completely stop what happened. They put a halt to it for a minimal period of time. It's still going on to this day. Why do you think there are so many missing people? I now am starting to think about things like, okay, here, the Tom Mezek case. All of you are familiar that I am obsessed with that case. And that magnetic sound, or that metallic sound, excuse me. I live in the Adirondacks. There supposedly are deep underground military bases in the Adirondacks that were built in the 50s. I believe there's supposedly like 4 or 5 that interconnect, that are small, like all throughout the Adirondacks. What if Mezek was taken and brought down to this facility, and that metallic noise that his cousin or whoever heard was these portals opening up? Crazy enough, as I was up there, 3-4 months ago, I got metallic noises on camera. There is no anything up there. There was nobody there. First of all, it was like 28 degrees, 30 degrees. It was freezing cold out. I was by myself, and that noise was terrifying. And ironically, I blew the shofar 3 times. 3 times at 3 different locations. So a double trinity. So that was right there, was an hour almost, and that much information. I have still this much information that has everything to deal with what I just shared. Where they talk about the battle, where they talk about certain things. Trying to find that one. This is crazy right here. Question. Construction worker at the Anthill, the Northup's Techipi base, reports seeing a 12-foot human being wearing a lab coat. Who are these guys? Are they from the Hollow Earth? So he's talking about giants, which, give me 1 second and I'll get to that. Okay, so back to that question. Construction worker, we're at the Anthill or Northrop's Techipi base, reports seeing a 10 to 12 foot tall human being wearing a lab coat. Who are these guys? Are they from the Hollow Earth? Note, basic theses involves what one might refer to as a geoconnective sphere theory, or that as the Earth was forming in its molting state, the planetary spin created a hollow or concavity within the center, similar to a hollow created by a centrifuged force of horizontal washing machine following the spin cycle. So that spin that you get when water's going down a drain, or that when you look at your washing machine and it spins and you have that. There are reportedly funnel-like openings near the polar regions, perpetually concealed by mist created by the collision of cold air from the outside and hot air from the inside, which permits ingress and egress to and from the inner worlds. The theory states that the inner surface has its own gravity, yet slightly less than the outer surface gravity. One side theory is what between the inner and outer surface, where gravity is nullified, there exists a layer of weightlessness or low-weight caverns in the eternal state of chaos where minerals, liquids, gases, and chemicals continually slam together from the Earth's rotation, causing intense magmatic activity, a virtual inferno or bottomless pit, hell. Some have theorized that based on the apocryphal book of Esdras, chapter 13, which contains non-canonized Jewish legend, that the 10 lost tribes of Israel disappeared beyond the river Simbaton to a place in the far north where humans never lived before, called Arzarth, Arzareth, Arzarth. In the days, a path would be made through the ice and water of the north, and the lost tribes would remain. There are 3 tribes accounted for as of this writing, or rather 2 tribes and 2.5 tribes. Judah, Benjamin, half of the Levite tribe, and apparently half of the tribe of Dan, if we are to believe the Ethiopian Jews who claim to be descendant from Daniel or Dan. The 13th tribe would be accounted for by the fact that 2 Josephite tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh are considered distinctive tribes of themselves. As for the giants, some believe that these have direct connection to the 10 to 12 foot tall Anakim people mentioned in the Old Testament who were driven out of Palestine. Following the Torah gives no further detail as of their fate, although there have been many reports of such giants being encountered in large cavern systems below Alaska, Oregon, California, Utah, Texas, Mexico, and also reports of ancient grave sites in western United States and elsewhere where the remains of human giants have been reportedly discovered. Most often, they, like the fifth-dimensional Sasquatch people, themselves have been described as being benevolent unless provoked. Answer. This is the answer to that question, who were those guys in that lab coat? This is just a little bit of information. Answer. They are probably inner Earth drones. The deeper you get, the stranger the life forms are. The tall men are from a subterranean level. Lower yet are the dwarfed, deformed forms. I don't trust either of them. There are other forms that both the tall men and dwarf men fear and loathe. They are similar to a Bigfoot in appearance, but extremely violent and enjoy eating whatever they find, if it is still alive. They are subhuman and demented with an IQ of around 15. Note, According to another source, these lower Bigfoot type creatures, having more of a resemblance to an ape than to a human-like face, feature much friendlier Sasquatch people who frequent the surface, dwell in wild cave caverns, some 6 or 7 miles deep, along the other very large and dangerous insectoid and quadruped or serpentine reptilian life forms. So, there is... That's a whole lot of information to take in right there. And this isn't, this is not some sort of friggin' creepy pasta that you're going to hear on, whatever. This is an actual interview that was done. Tom Castiello, he was former military, security for the United States government, and he's talking about a violent type of Sasquatch-like creature or another type of quadruped-like creature or an insectoid-type creature that comes from the inner earth. I'm not talking like Godzilla inner earth. I'm talking caverns and cave systems that devour humans because they are violent. And then there are some that are benevolent. It's pretty much what we talk about every day. Bigfoot, Dogman. Wow. This is more interesting. And then I'll jump into this next article quick. This is according to a report I investigated some years ago of a group of spelunkers who reportedly broke into a vast underground labyrinth west and northwest of Cushman, Arkansas, where they encountered these types of creatures as well as friendly blue-skinned humans who claimed to have been the descendant from a family that survived an ancient global deluge by taking refuge in a large ship. These ancient people claimed that their ancestors had come to the Americas and discovered the cavern world wherein they commenced to establish their hidden civilization. A large ship? A deluge? A flood? Noah? The reptoid, humanoid as opposed to quadruped or serpentine life forms, stay in caves or caverns that are not very deep. They prefer the desert mountains. They use camouflage rather than fighting. But they do carry rods for protection. They do have a symbol, not a hokey snake with wings that I keep seeing in the public, which is used mostly by the Greys and also as a medical symbol for the Delta Force. The reptoids use a dragon with its tail in its mouth, a circle with 7 pointed stars in the middle. There have been reports of the Delta Force having black vans with no tires that hover over the ground. How much are we, the United States, already interworking with alien cultures? I haven't seen black vans that you've mentioned. We are totally submerged in alien culture. Very little of the original human cultures have survived. How can we, the public, go after or expose an alien culture which is covert and hidden? Go for it. The best shot. That means go after the reptoid. They stay near the surface. They choose to try and hide and avoid contact. They are soldiers doing a job, and usually there are 2 or 3 at each site. They are manning a remote post. They are not to bother the humans unless they are endangering the post. Most of them are not hostile and will not kidnap you. They may blast at you and paralyze you for an hour possibly and cause confusion. So the last couple of questions right here. Where is your family? Not just your wife and son, but your parents and siblings. Kathy and Eric are still missing. My parents died in a car crash when I was in my teens. I have one brother, if he is alive. I suspect he is inside an underground base somewhere. I have not heard from him in years. Please pray for them, please. What is your birth date and where were you born? April 23rd, 1941. Glen Ellen, Illinois. Actually, in a farm at home, in a place now called Glen Ellen. My birth certificate is listed as Wheaton, Illinois. You have been through very much, and yet you keep fighting. What is your biggest fear? That the general public will forget. The trapped innocent people in the despicable place, and will ignore the hundreds of children, women, and men added to that place every month. So, yes, it's all connected. It all is. The paranormal, the secret governments, the cryptids, it all has a connection. And it's evil. It is evil. None of it is good. None of it is good for humans. You know, we are fodder to these things. And yet there are brave men like Tom Castiello, Mark Richards, Phil Schneider, Bill Cooper, that fought and died, or like Mark Richards is imprisoned for the rest of his life at a supermax for doing nothing. That continue to fight and fight for what they believe in, and that's our humanity, our freedoms. It's pretty crazy. I think I'll save this for tomorrow or a little bit later. This is an interview with a super soldier, and the program for the super soldier program was actually called Project Superman. I'll just give you a quick rundown. An exclusive interview with Andy Pero, survivor of a secret mind control project aimed at creating the super soldier and PSYOP ability. Andrew Pero was unwillingly subjected to mind control, offshoot the Monarch Project, trauma-based mind control project, similar to that of what Kathy O'Brien describes in her autobiography by Mark Phillips, Transformation of America. Andy Pero claims to have been created through a combination of genetic manipulation, trauma-based mind control, and Silva mind control training result in a superhuman feat and PSYOPs. In addition to this, Mr. Pero alleges to have been unwittingly used in covert assassinations as Manchurian Candidate and also in missions connected to Montauk, such as time travel. Andrew Pero first went public with his story in August of 1998 as a special guest of Preston Nichols while at a lecture hosted by Bob Ewer in Philadelphia. I was so astounded by Andy's testimony that I interviewed him personally. So that his story could be shared with the readers of an unknown magazine, a magazine based on UFO and such. Because of my background in alien abduction, paranormal, the occult, and anomalous trauma, I recognized Andy as an extraordinary survivor of trauma based on mind control, one whose story should not remain hidden. You know what? Screw it. Here we go. This is the super soldier. That was Dulce. This is the super soldier. I need to take a minute and hit my jewel. Andy Parrow. Andy, where are you originally from, and when did your training begin? I was born in Fallon, Nevada, November of '69. My dad was a lieutenant commander at the Fallon Naval Air Station in Nevada at the time. I believe my first experience began at the time that I was 2, maybe 3. At 5 years old, my family lived in Munich, Germany, and I remember attending 2 distinct kindergarten classes. On in German, that was located on or near McGraw Army Troop Base, and another kindergarten in English. I have flashback memories of torture sessions as an early age of 2, where I was subjected to shock treatment with needles inserted in my ears and genitalia. What they, the controllers or handlers, do is use extreme trauma to separate the mind from the body. They do this to split the mind into several parts that they can later be programmed to do things like superhuman feats. Basically, they disconnect all of the normal human brain impulses, emotions, and whatever is normally present, then reprogram the new ones. They do this to remove all fear, so that when they program new abilities, you will not have the instinctual, but I'm afraid response. They program you to not think. In essence, they treat and program your mind as if it is a computer. Who are the people running these secret programs like Monarch and Montauk projects? And where do they conduct their activities? Our own government. One of my handlers who tried to brainwash me into believing that he was my father was basically a Nazi. I nicknamed him Adolf because he was very Aryan looking. After World War II, many Nazi scientists were brought over to the United States through their own intelligence community, who formerly worked in mind control research in concentration camps. I believe they are a remnant of the Nazi Party working in conjunction with different branches of the United States government and military. Much of my training and torture sessions were done at the University of Rochester. They used to take me to a private room in the attic or top floor of the library, a big lab where I did most of my programming. Rome, National Air Force Base in Rome, New York, and Montauk Chair while at Camp Hero, Montauk, Atlanta, Dobbins Air Force Base. The Montauk facility located in Camp Hero was reopened by the Department of the Navy and is active still today. What were some of the things the mind control programmers made you do? I remember my mother enrolling me in the Silva mind control course when I was 10. It was a type of self-hypnosis where you learn different levels of your mind to do self-healing, relaxation, visualization, bending spoons with the power of your mind, things like that. This also the time that I saw 2 peculiar military men who would periodically visit me throughout my childhood, especially sporting events. I did exceptionally well at the Silva Mind Control and at sports, so much so that these 2 military men approached me. I hear you have some very special abilities. Someday you will work for us. Tell me more about the various superhuman abilities you discovered you had. The trainers would put me in a trance whereby I was told I could jump off a ladder of minimal height. In my mind, I believed that I was only jumping off a footstool or a short ledge. In actuality, I was progressively led to jump higher and higher to the point of successfully jumping off of buildings and even out of planes without a parachute. When under mind control, I could do whatever I was instructed to do as long as I believed them. I would do 200 or more push-ups in perfect form, sometimes as long as a half hour straight, or until I was told to stop. Are there others like yourself that have had similar training and experience? I think there are thousands of other children and people who are used, and many end up missing. Many die in the process. They are considered expandable. The ones who can survive the most rigorous programming live on to become what is known as the Montauk Boys. Duncan Cameron is such a person. In general, the boys and young men are trained to be couriers, assassins, super soldiers, psychic killers. The women, Kathy O'Brien. So if you want to learn more about it, look up Duncan Cameron and Kathy O'Brien. What kind of special missions or time travel experiments do you remember? This is crazy. Really quick, I just want to share this. In upstate New York, in Saranac Lake, this was online for a while, and then they took it down. And many of you will remember this. I know because I've talked about it a few times, and I'd say at least, let's say, if I had 100 people listening right now, 25 to 30 of those people remember. But in Saranac Lake, there was these underground facilities that were found. This guy, he was hiking out in the woods, and he took pictures. He went down in this base. It was a base underground, and there was child-sized beds in there, right? Smaller beds. And he took these pictures, and he did his research, and he kept posting it online. And this was like, maybe 2010. No later than 2012, 2013. And he'd post the pictures that he found and different photos that he found and stuff like that. And he ended up disappearing, and his website was taken down. And then his son started to put stuff up that he had that his dad had posted. And supposedly that was part of this project, where they would do this mind control on children. And I asked my dad about it a while ago. And my dad, many of you know, was naval intelligence after the Vietnam War. During the war, he was Brownwater Navy, and which means River Navy. I said, dude, check this out. And I told him exactly what I just said to you. And he said, yeah. He said, all around the upstate region that happened. And he kind of changed the subject, but he gave me that information. You know what I mean? He was cool enough to not stop me from talking about it, I guess. Next question. Tell me more about your involvement in the Montauk Project. I was involved in an offshoot of the Montauk called the Montauk Chair. Basically, the Montauk Chair was developed to give the human and spirit a 0 point of reference to facilitate time travel. What the chair essentially does is separate the mind from the body. The chair operator's thoughts and vibrational energy is picked up by an umbrella-looking antenna above the chair, sent to a computer, over to a processor, then amplified several hundred times. The information is sent to a network of free energy crystals arranged in a circle. Then, whatever thoughts are amplified, time period, a wormhole would open in that room. The wormhole was large, 16 to 18 feet across, and even large enough for a truck to go through. In Camp Hero, Montauk, the location is the crosshairs of the Earth's biorhythms, and is the point on Earth where time travel is most easily accomplished when Earth is the point of origin. Part of the Montauk Chair Project was to use my focused visualization skills to think of a specific time point in history that were assigned to me. The chair is connected to that sophisticated computer system and thought amplified. such that when the thought and time period is visualized, the computer simulates a time portal base, and on that point of time, a series of time portals are done until a library of time periods and portals are accumulated. The chair is also used to amplify extreme focus thoughts and create three-dimensional materializations based on the operator's fault. Preston Nichols wrote several books on the Montauk Project and describes an incident in which Duncan Cameron created a monster while in the Montauk chair. So he essentially created a monster using his mind, this Duncan Cameron. And I urge you guys to investigate this stuff because it is mind-blowing and it is real. Like this is truth is stranger than fiction, man. Like, I understand that people love creepypastas and they're like, wow, man, I feel great. It's like watching a scary movie. But when it's real, it's 10 times scarier than some sham of a story. Sorry. Have you ever encountered extraterrestrials or seen any aliens in any of your underground memories? From what I understand, the Department of the Navy made an agreement with the alien Greys to exchange technologies for human women and children to conduct horrific breeding experiments. This is what's going on right now in the underground base not far from Miami, Florida. One of the most disturbing memories is being escorted down a hallway in this underground lab and seeing cages of chicken wire fencing with women and children screaming for help. I have seen gray aliens, the 4-foot ones with large black eyes, and also 7-foot tall reptilian beings in some of my experiences. On one occasion, I was introduced to a reptilian being while underground base somewhere, either 1989 or 90. At the first, I saw this 7-foot tall, human Aryan-looking man. He walks towards me, and I notice that his image phases out as if something interfered with the energy field. He does something to a device on his belt and tells me, okay, I'll show you. Then pushes some button, and I see his image change to a 7-foot tall lizard creature that appeared to weigh somewhere between 400 pounds. I was introduced to a group of beings that claimed to be a subgroup of the Illuminati. They were made up of a group of 40 to 50 men, all 6'2" or taller, white, and of all indeterminate older average, 70 years old. But I suspect much older considering the technology they have access to. They convened in a boardroom that I believe was in an underground base, perhaps Camp Hero Montauk. Who or what groups do you think are running the show in the United States or even on Earth? How do the aliens fit into all of this? It is very complicated, and basically there are 4 main versions or groups of the New World Order, all within slightly varying agendas. The first group comprises the United States and Western Europe, England, Germany, France, the United States. The second group is Eastern Europe fused with the Western Europe and the U.S. The third group is countries of the Orient, and the fourth is Middle Eastern, Saudi Arabian elements with their oil money. There are also off-world groups, aliens, and future human Nazi types called Zardanians, Reptillians, Greys, Dracos, who also have a hand in the NWO. For the time being, the old money groups of Europe and England, the Bilderbergs, bastards, have teamed up with diehard factions of Nazis, Jews, and Americans, forming a group that has always been known as the Illuminati and affiliated with secret societies. Guys, this is all very scary stuff. This is all very real stuff. And to me, like I said, I know people watch these YouTube channels for creepypastas and they like it for entertainment, possibly think it's real. Well, there's an author attached to that story. But right here, there is no author attached to this story. There are victims sharing their experiences, which is 10 times scarier to me. Creating a monster sitting in a chair designed to create portals is insane. Talking about Dogman and Bigfoot living in caves underneath, that are violent giants. And there's more. I have a folder about that thick of this, more of this stuff that is just very disturbing. And with that, I'm going to end it because my brain hurts right now. A lot of very interesting information. I hope you guys enjoyed. I enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing this with you. Wow. I urge you guys to honestly look into this, more of it. It's the more we know, the less likely we are going to be taken advantage of, or at least we know what's going down. I'd rather know than not know, and I'm sure all of you are too, would like to too. So please, everyone, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay vigilant. Keep an eye on your surroundings wherever you are, in the woods, wherever, because this stuff is connected. Look at the Pentagon. Think about what the Pentagon shape is. It forms a star. If you this is all twisted, and it's all connected, man. It's all connected. And I'm probably getting to be one of those freaking tin hat wearing mothers, but anyway, guys, thanks. I appreciate it. I love you all. Stay safe. Share this information with someone you care about, because it may help save their life someday, honestly. With that being said, never stop asking questions and never stop searching for answers. And God bless you all.